Welcome to episode 13. We're talking about customer experience. We addressed that in episode 12 and really focused on service. In this episode, we're going to add food. We're going to also add the ambiance of the establishment and then surprises. So creating that customer experience using those other three factors to really create something that people are going to talk about afterwards. As we said in episode 12, Miguel, it's more important than ever to create a great customer experience. Always important, but now with, as you said, free agents, with customers out there looking to maybe realign themselves with favorite restaurants, now you really want to be on your A game, and you have the possibility to steal some new customer fan base for yourself. And so I want to start out with the food, because I felt like this week, and I get it, it was all about we're just going to be open, we're going to get the food in front of people and try to follow all the rules, and there was a lot going on, so I get that. But I feel like food is one of the two things that people, before COVID, I'm going out, I want to have great food and I want to have a great ambiance. That's what I'm looking for. And those are still going to be there, along with safety, attentiveness, value. But what are your thoughts on how to create that customer experience through food? What are some things you can do to really make that impact?
Right. Well, all the study have shown, this is pre-COVID, and I'm pretty positive it's going to happen post-COVID, is that to have a high level of satisfaction in respects to your experience to a restaurant, it comes down to two factors. You got what you ordered, and you got it fast. Outside of that, it's actually icing on the cake and cherry on top. Right. And so first and foremost, are we being clear as to what we're selling? And a lot of that comes down to menu description as well as the spiels the servers give, to a guest as to what this item is. And then are we cooking it correctly? So are there recipes and training systems to ensure that the product's going to come out or being cooked correctly? And then the final piece obviously is it coming out quickly? And so that goes back to the hot food hot and cold food cold. And it sounds so basic. Some things like, wow, that should be the most basic thing in the world. But it will down a restaurant faster than anything else. And I'll give you a quick example. This past week was Cinco de Mayo, so most Americans decide that's the day they're going to celebrate Mexican food, although it's not a Mexican holiday. And so one of my clients, it's a quick serve Mexican concept. They just got overrun, and they're one of the top Mexican quick serve concepts in Tampa Bay, so even more reason people want to go check it out. And it's funny, a lot of the regulars stayed away thinking this is not the day to go check it out. And some things we had done earlier in the COVID situation, we put online ordering, which we never had before. We didn't adjust for the volume. And so next thing you know, we had, literally by 6 o'clock, we had more orders. We had to shut down the restaurant for the rest of the night. And we're running about an hour and a half behind on tickets, which was crazy. People were okay waiting that long. They were okay with everything else. What they were not okay with is what their order not being correct.
Right.
And not being, obviously, they're okay with someone with the timing, except it went too far. And so we learned a quick lesson. As much loyalty as we had, and they got crushed on social media the next day by some people. Right. Fortunately, they had a huge following that following came back to their defense, saying, hey, 364 days out of the year, they're amazing. Right. It was Cinco de Mayo. Yes. But man, giving that food correctly is the most important piece. And so whatever you do from your kitchen point of view, the way you set up your model is got to be just right to making sure the food comes out and being cooked correctly every single time.
And to that point, Miguel, I feel like one of those silver lining aspects is right now with 25% limitation on indoor, and kitchens are not operating at full speed ahead right now. No. They're at a limited level of service. Now may be a great time to look at your menu items, your POS, your kitchen layout for efficiencies to make sure, as you said, those orders are going out exact, they're going out perfect, they're going out timely, so this may be a good time to be able to look at that again. And we all know when those orders back up, that's when the pressure starts to cook. Front of house, back of the house, and that's when the wheels come off.
I was there at one of those concepts, and we were there pretty much the entire day in support. And I had to put the whites back on. I was in there, and I tell you what, with that pressure mounting, we were seeing error after error after error. One, we hadn't been that kind of volume.
Sure.
They basically had done a full day volume by noon. And so the staff, which had been out of practice to get that going through, really was out of touch.
Yeah.
And so imagine your restaurant, you've been shut down for a month or 2 months,
right.
all of a sudden you're reopening, where you're 25%, you go to 75%, or you get a pop. What's your team going to do? And so, fortunately, in that situation there, they had an expediter who was double checking everything.
Right.
And that's ultimately important. You put some systems in place to help you out.
Right, because our hope is that we get to that 75% level quickly and be able to fill it and service it, et cetera. So getting those systems in place now is important. I also feel like there's a shift in preference to what I call no-touch meals. So I can use a knife and fork and eat everything on my plate. I don't have to touch anything with my hands. So maybe if you have sandwiches at your place, maybe it's those really nice paper wraps that can go around the sandwich, so I can eat my sandwich without actually touching the sandwich. So there's some things that I want folks to think about in the COVID light, ways they can augment what they're serving to kind of fit that mentality. We've talked in previous episodes, condiments aren't on the table anymore. You've got to figure out a way to efficiently and effectively and give great customer service. A tableside grind of pepper or salt, the ketchup. Sometimes I get on a soapbox. Make sure it's a bigger container for me, because the little tiny ketchups, anyway. So that's a little thing for me, but make sure that experience for the guest is exactly what it is they want, expect.
Yeah, well, I think one thing you got to take a look at right now, none of the coffee shops are allowing you to self-serve. But I mean coffee shops, I'm throwing the Wawas of the world and things like that. And so places in the past where you could do a self-pump, fill the coffee up as much as you want in the coffee cup, put as much cream, as much sugar or some of the equivalents in there as much as you wanted, which you kind of created your own, was awesome because you knew your own style. Now you're having to communicate that to someone behind how much it should be.
Right.
Well, that same mentality I think you need to take into your own restaurant. So for instance, if I'm selling hamburgers, and do I bring Roger a thimble full of ketchup, or do I bring 6 ounces of ketchup? That's great for Roger, but here's the deal. If you bought it from me and you bought me 6 ounces, you're probably going to throw away a good 5 ounces. And we're looking at a financial situation, so I can't be throwing things away.
Right.
And so the best answer really is to really engage Roger to find out, do you need more? Or maybe we bring everybody a 1 ounce portion, but when I'm dropping it off, I'm asking, sir, is this enough? Or I would be happy to bring you more.
Right.
And if you start to find out that 6 out of 10 times you have to go back and get more, then maybe up the size you have.
Yeah.
But if it's only 1 out of 10, you're okay. But make sure you're doing great customer service by bringing Roger plenty more.
It's all about the communication, the individualization, especially for places that are not used to this. Places that have had the caddy forever have not had to go through this. So be ready for that. The other thing I look at is troubleshooting the food right now. So this is something, as we alluded to earlier, should always be going on, but I think it's especially important now. What's coming back that wasn't eaten on a lot of plates? What were particular complaints that happened where the fries not warm or not hot that day? So troubleshooting the food as an owner GM is really, really important right now, I feel, to make sure that experience stays great. I also feel there's nothing better than the GM or the cook or the whoever being able to interact with those tables. So having moments throughout the service where they can get out, and it doesn't take long to interact with a table to have impact on the table. I always tell my partners, when you see great reviews, it typically has somebody's name listed. The manager, the owner, the staff person. So have that interaction going on. Very, very
That's a phenomenal point. Back when I used to run fine dining restaurants, and I think this what I always say is what makes it great in fine dining, it makes it stupendous in a casual dining environment, especially things that don't cost anything. And so whenever, for me, I would do table visits, and I'm in my suit, and halftime I would get in there and have a conversation. They might have known I was a managing partner, but for the most part, they're like, there's some guy in a suit bothering my meal. I never saw that reaction when the chef showed up or someone in white. Sometimes it was just our brother cooks, but the fact they had the chef jacket on. When they showed up, they all stopped. They wanted to talk to the chef. They wanted to talk to the person who made the meal. And so what we started doing was that we actually had servers bring line cooks every once in a while, especially early on in the shift as well as late in the shift. Mid-pack you couldn't get it done, but to come out and just talk to people. The two things. First off, it really enhanced the guest experience. They were excited to meet the person who made their meal, and they asked a lot of questions. it helped the cooks start understanding what the front of house felt like and interact. By the way, I'm saying cooks, not the chefs. The cooks come out there.
Right.
But also we started seeing less mistakes by the cooks. We started seeing less, over-unders, and we started seeing, less incorrect portion sizes, because they recognized that they weren't just cooking for some anonymous person out there. They were cooking for a human being that they were probably going to interact with later on. And so that to me is critical. And if I had a lot of mistakes, that's when the chef made it come out and say, hey, you bring that mistake back out yourself. I'm not taking the heat this time.
I love that. And one of the other thoughts as we move to ambiance is, what are special touches that you can give on the plating? Whether it's a drizzle signature on the side, whether it's a flag in the food, whatever that may be. But what special touches can you do with the plating so that food comes out and somebody says, hey, somebody actually paid attention for what was coming to me. So I always look for things like that. Now we're moving to ambiance. So you said it earlier, it's a big challenge to create buzziness, to create that jazziness to dining out when the dining room's 25% full or 75% empty, right? Patio's not so much right now, because that's where people are gravitating. And one thing that I'm a big believer in is music. Whether it's live, whether it's recorded, having some music in the background that creates an ambiance. My only caveat is you've got to brand it. You've got to make sure that if you're a sports bar, that music's a little bit higher and up. Right. If you're fine dining, it's got to be probably quieter, more subdued. But music is a huge filler of energy. Yeah. So
and it drives attitudes and mood. I mean, it's the reason if you watch your favorite movies. Imagine watching like the Avengers with no music whatsoever. What do those battle scenes feel like and sound? Yeah, well, it's very different. So music is critical to people understanding the quality of the food and what they're about to get themselves into.
And keep an eye on the volume. So whoever is owner, GM, whoever's responsible for that moment at that time, make sure the volume's good. My other energy creator is the team energy. Right. Oh my God, I've gone into places where they cannot wait to get off shift, and you pick that up immediately. I've gone on to other places where I'm like, they are a family here, and you get it and you feed off of it. So, creating that team energy, we're going to be discussing in one of the next episodes about motivating staff. So that's going to be a nice long conversation. But for this one, I think it's, to your point, Miguel, leadership is accountable for team energy. So maybe just take a second and talk about leadership and how, just maybe one or two keys, and then we'll save the rest for the next.
I think first and foremost, we recognize that our teams are human beings, and they are also experiencing this crisis as much as you and I are. And maybe they're not owners of a restaurant, but they have families to feed, or it's just themselves. As we've stated in prior episodes, here in Florida, as well as some other states, there's issues with the unemployment website, so maybe they haven't gotten paid, or if they're getting paid, they're getting paid less. They may have a sick family member. So you have to look at them that they're an individual. And so first and foremost, when they walk in through the door, greet them as such and connect with them, find out where they are. If they're going to come into work, then they have to do the job. We can't excuse their current situation or state of mind, but you do need to take inventory of what is that state of mind. And then the next piece is your job as a leader to have your Braveheart moment and give a rousing speech to get them motivated about what's to happen next. I mean, think about it. And I always use Braveheart as an example. He was telling them, I'm going to get excited about potentially getting killed. Well, we're not saying this here necessarily for our servers, but we're saying, hey, get excited for the battle we have in front of us, which is to give an amazing dining experience that we're not even sure what it's going to look like. And so get them excited, get them energized, has to be. And if, I tell you what, if you're not excited about what's about to happen, neither are they. So first person you have to get geared up is yourself.
Well, and the statement we talked about was, I'm a server, I'm a host, I'm a cook, whoever is there, we're happy to be serving guests again with a big smile. I mean, those places that have smiles, laughter, and this is traditionally and should be even more important now, birthday songs sung with gusto, places that create team energy have a unique and special place for folks. That's where people, they'll have that special anniversary, they'll have that birthday, they'll make that wedding proposal. So there's all different value that comes from that. And it's just more fun to work there as a staff person. Another way to create ambiance is decor and signage. Now, with COVID, you've got to be careful of what you've got from decor and signage as far as being able to keep it clean, not clean. We get that. We understand that. That's not what we're focusing on at the moment. But it really does have a powerful way to control the mood and the customer experience. I always talk about I'm going to save that for surprises. It's signage with surprises, so we'll save that in a minute. But plants, fun art, signage, fish tanks, television that are branded and showing whatever meets your particular category. And then, those to me are really, really key. So Miguel, decor, signage, what are some of your thoughts on that?
My thought is this: if your decor doesn't either clearly make known why it's there, in other words, it's part of the brand, then it should have a story. What is the story behind it? Whether if you go to Mission Barbecue, where they have different military and police and very patriotic, then we understand why that decor is there. If you go to Jimmy John's, they have all their funny quip sayings. That is part of what makes me understand what brand am I walking into. Some have motivational quotes. If you go to Five Guys, it's every review, usually local, but usually around the country. It's the most simplistic and inexpensive places, the decor they have, yet it denotes to them, hey, we're quality and we're winners. And so I think you're going to take a look at your decor and saying, is there a brand supported? Is that brand supported by the decor? I've walked in a lot of places where it's so eclectic that honestly, I just don't know if it's trash or if it's something intentional. It doesn't make any sense to me. Again, it doesn't make my meal perfect. Your food's got to be right and it's got to be fast. But it adds on. I feel more that it's probably a more richer sound. You kind of talk sometimes that some places feel mom and pop and some places feel corporate. And I think what they're alluding to is there was thought process on how the decor was put together and what kind of music and lighting and ambiance was put together. And usually, unfortunately, the mom and pop was we got what was cheap and we just threw it up on the wall, and that's what it is. So I think really having a purpose behind it, and last thing I'll say, listen, if you go to Outback, their ceiling tiles are purple. Why are they purple? Well, the story was one of the partners, he wanted to remind him of the Australian night sky, what it looked like. That was a purple sky. I don't know if it's true or not. That's a story every single server I encountered, but it's a great story. And so that's the mentality you need to have by decor.
I think that the intentionality that matches branding is so important to say. If I tell you there's a giant aquarium at a restaurant on the beach, you know exactly where I'm talking about. I can describe a really, really kitschy kind of Key West themed restaurant in the Grand Central District. You know where I'm talking about. So you can create a customer experience when you have that decor and that signage that matches and is intentional to the theme and what you're trying to create. A spin-off of that is lighting too. Lighting is really, really important. We've got great lighting here. Thank you, Alex, for what we're doing today. Restaurants, it's also important to know your brand, know your lighting, and make sure you're doing a great job with that. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that, but I want people to recognize that's an important part of what you're creating for the customer experience. I have gone into a place where I literally, and I'm getting older, I couldn't read the menu. Not even with my glasses off, very, very close to the menu. It was so dark.
Yeah. I've had to use actually my phone to light up my wife's menu because I could see it, but she couldn't see it.
So lighting is important. Ladies and gentlemen, listening to the video, watching the video. So I want to pivot now to my favorite part. So surprises. Humans there is so much that happens in our brain and in our body when we're surprised by something, especially surprised in a great way. So we as restaurant and bar and hotel hospitality people, we have the creative power to create those surprise moments. Let's do that. Now's a great time to create those surprises for people where they're like, in your example, it was the server or the food delivery person sanitizing their hands before they touched any food to then set those plates on the table. That was a moment of surprise. Hadn't seen that done before. So that's one way that can be done under COVID. But we know another local restaurant where they delivered the dessert menu with a viewfinder with the pictures of the dessert. Guests were taking pictures of each other when that was done. A complimentary appetizer or dessert for the table. Cost you $1, $2. When's the last time you sat down at a restaurant and got something complimentary?
Yeah.
Wow, has an impact.
Yeah.
Has an impact.
You see it in the movies, you don't see it anymore in real life.
But it's to create that comeback visit and that wow moment, and maybe that extra glass of wine around the table. Like, wow, let's stay for a little bit longer here. The ROI on that is magical, Miguel. I also believe when a table is celebrating a moment, no matter what it is, if it's an anniversary, if it's a graduation, if it's a birthday, if it's a promotion, have something that you can do for that table. You rarely see anything except for a birthday nowadays. Yeah. That would be pretty cool. So, some thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a local concept, actually, a restaurant group here in town, mainly in Tampa Bay. And I've visited a lot of their different brands, so it's not only one brand. I think they have around 7 different brands at this point. But I know it's a company policy because it doesn't matter which one of the brands I've been to. The first time I went to it, I was asked, was the first time, which we said yes. And at some point, a manager did come by, but they also brought us a dessert on the house because we were first time. And again, it didn't matter which brand we'd gone to. I knew it was a common ownership. And so it's something they thought through. It wasn't an impromptu. It wasn't the manager thinking, I think I should do something. It was their company policy that we wanted to surprise all our first-time guests by giving them something. But one thing I'll say about surprises is this, and it's the way it really works. You can take a look at it. Is most of us love stand-up comedy. And what makes it work? Because generally there's a setup done by the comedian as to here's the story I'm going to tell you. Yeah. But what makes it funny is the punchline. Yeah. And the punchline generally goes opposite of what the setup is, or in other words, it's a surprise. Right. And so, yes, back in the day if it was my birthday, I would get a free dessert. And probably the first few restaurants that did that, it was great. But now what happens? We expect it. It's no longer a punchline. It's no longer going in reverse. It's what I expect. And now I'm thinking, I went there for my birthday. I told the server, I even told the manager, and they did nothing. It did nothing for me. Actually, if they gave me dessert, okay, I got what I expected. So it's the unexpected you need to be looking for, and you can do it in a million and one ways. And we can probably give you a few, but really it's you and your team sitting around thinking, hey, what can we do that's unexpected, that's on brand, that can wow people? I tell you what, those kind of conversations, especially in this time with what's going on, are actually fun conversations to have. I've been in those conversations, and think outside the box. No holds barred, no price. You'd be surprised what comes up with, and usually your staff will come up with some very effective, inexpensive ways to take care of a guest that really resonate. And you have these conversations often. That way you can okay, let's roll something new. That thing we did for a while, let's put it aside. Let's do something new. That's exciting stuff.
It's not your birthday cake.
Correct.
Anyone's birthday? No. You deliver one at the end and sing "It's not your birthday," and then some quick things, because my goal is to get you thinking and excited. So slip something complimentary in the to-go bags or the delivery bags. Do a family feature on Facebook where, hey, you guys are going to be our family feature tonight. Would you like to be on on Facebook having a great meal here? Yes. Snap a picture, put them right up onto Facebook. Wow. Candy bowls at the exits are gone right now, right? It doesn't mean you can't deliver candies, to the guest at the table at the end. Not that that's surprising, but again, that doesn't happen that often. And here's my surprise that I alluded to earlier with signage. I was at a restaurant, men's room, left the men's room. On the inside of the men's room, it said ladies' room. And I've never been more surprised in my life as I was leaving that restroom. And to this day, I remember that restaurant. So if you have a kid-friendly restaurant, gosh, there's so many ways you can engage the children. And the power of doing that, not just having a kids menu or crayons and a coloring book. By the way, those are disposable now, right? So each kid gets their own. Doing something special that really makes that kid take notice. That kid will beg their parents to go back there again. They'll never forget that location. Dozens of more ideas out there. Use staff. Get them excited about it. Closing thought, Miguel. You said it earlier. You need to walk through the guest experience from beginning to end. And as that customer viewing the ambiance, viewing the decor, the signage, the surprises, the service that they get, in saying, how can we step our game up? And it's very few times does that cost money to do it. It's just ingenuity, training, and creating habits. So Any final thoughts from you, Miguel, on that part?
Yeah, I'll say first on that one piece is when you do that walkthrough, please do it with the idea of money is not an object. Because the moment you start putting money as an object, your mind will shut down and you won't look at it. Do it without money, without being an object. Once you have that ideal, you can go back and figure, okay, how do we afford it, or how can we do it cheaper? But it's a great, exciting thing. And the thing I'll say about the kids, a quick story for me was we had a situation. This is one of my old restaurants to run fine dining, and the family came in with their kids, and they asked if we had a Happy Meal, and we charge $100 and some a plate. We didn't have kids meals, but the server did. We went down to McDonald's and we got a Happy Meal. We came back when the time the food came out, for everybody. We actually had a McDonald's in the box Happy Meal with a toy and everything else. The kid was ecstatic. It was their first time, and by the way, they came back every year for his birthday, and every year we went out and got a $3 Happy Meal while the parents spent $100 some
right.
each to have a meal with us. Why? Because that server took the mentality of, let's do something exciting and different. He could have said no, unfortunately not. He could have talked to Chef, hey, can you make some chicken nuggets? He says, no, how do we make it something unique and unexpected? And I think your team has enough ingenuity and some creativity in their minds that if you empower them to do it, they'll be happy to go along with it.
That's a perfect setup for episode 14, which is coming up, which is inspiring staff. So for this episode, goodbye, and we'll see you soon.